acting for Sandra today because she and our Chief Executive are currently meeting with the Minister of Finance. So Mayor Sandra will be with us as soon as she's able to. I could now hand to Pitiera, thank you.
Mai e te tipua, mai e te tawhito, mai e te kāhui o ngāriki, mai e tā whiwhiki ngatua. O I ka takina te Māori ko te Māori i āhua noa ki runga ki ēnei taura, ki runga ki ēnei tauira, ki runga ki tēnei kaupapa. Kia tau te Māori ki runga ki tēnei kaupapa he tukuna no te whai oro oro a tāne te waiora. Tēnei te matatau ka e ke whakatū tārewa ki te rangi. Uhi wero tau mai te Māori haumi e, hui e, tāi ki e. Kāti tēnā tātou I roto I tō tātou whare I te rangi nei. Ka mawhiti whakawaho taku titiro. Ki tēnei oku whatu. I te kaha heke o ngā roi mata o rangi nui ki runga I a tātou. Me te aha kua pērā I ngā rangi ehia kēnei, kua pahure ake nei. Ko taku ngākau Māori e ki nei he tohu tērā me tangi e tātou o tātou mate. Kei te kūrai o ngā whakaaro o ngā mahara, ko te tokotoru I hinga I roto I te moana. Tērā tokotoru I haere o rātu ki te hiika, ka hoki hei ka takoto ātiki. Nō reira e whakaaro nui ana ki o rātou whānau e noho pani ana I tēnei wā. Tairawa mai ki ngā mate kei wainga nui a tātou katoa I runga I tēnā marae hui hui a mai rā ki roto ki tō tātou whare. Kia tangi hia, kia mihia, kia poroporo aki hia e tātou I te rangi nei. Rātau kia rātau, tātou e pai nei kia tātou, tēnā tātou I te whare. He rangi nui tēnei. He rangi nui tēnei. Kia ūtonu au ki te ia o te whakaaro mo te ua. Nei ngā rangi e toru kua hipa ake nei. Me pēhea e kore ai a whakaaro. E kore e hoki ki te huripari I te rātau. I te kaha heke o te ua. I te kaha heke o te ua. Anō reira I ēnei āhuatanga tonu e whakaaro ana ki a Wairoa. Ki o tātou whānau I roto I te Wairoa. O tira ngā hapori. E whawhai ana I te whawhai I tēnei wā kua pāngia ki notia. E ngā mana o ngā tua. E ngā mana o ngā tua. Hoi anō koeira pēr tētahi o ngā tino take he rangi nui tēnei. He rangi nui tēnei. Kua ki te tātou I roto I ngā whakatau a ngā tua, he mea nui kia puta he whakatau I roto I tēnei whare. He mea nui kia puta he whakatau I roto I tēnei whare. Anō reira, kia kaua e tōroa I te āhua o ngā mihi engari kia hāngai ki a kūtau. Kei aku rangatira maunga haruru tangitu kua tau mai roto I te whare nau mai haramaira. Nau mai haramaira koutou ai runga I te kaupapa o te rā. He rangi nui tēnei e huro ana te ngākau. E huro ana te ngākau, e hariko ana te ngākau. Kua tai mai tātou ki tēnei rā. Nā ka hoki ngā mahara ki ngā roi mata maha. Ki te heke ngā wera wera. Ki te whakapau ngā kaha I roto I ngā tau maha, I roto I ngā tau tini, nei rā ka mihi, nei rā ka mihi, nei rā ka mihi. A taira watu ko ngā mihi ki a koe tānia. Aha koe kāre tāua I te tino mohi o ki a tāua. E whakaaro nei au kei te mohi au ki a koe māroto mai I ngā kōrero pai mou kua tai mai ki a putaringa. Ko ngā kōrero katoa e hāngai ana. Ki tō pakanga, ki tō manawa titi, kia tutuki tēnei rangi I te rangi nei. Nō reira, ko te ngākau whakamānawa tēnei. e mihi ana ki a koe, o tira ki a koutou katoa, kei te whānau kua tai mai, nau mai, hara mai ra. I roto i aku mihi, kia maunga haruru tangitu, kei te kite au i a hine uru, kei te kite au i a Waimārama, nau mai, hara mai ra. Nau mai hara mai rā i runga i te karanga a o te rā. Nau mai hara mai rā ki roto ki tō tātou whare i te rangi nei. Nā kei te kite au i tētahi tūru e wāte ana. Ka pai taku whakatoi i te kaikauni hera i a kaikauni hera heke. I te mea kei te mōhio au kei heia. Kei te mōhio au kei whakatū a councillor heke i tēnei wā. Nō reira e whakaaro ana ki tērā kaupapa. Ki a tātou tamariki moko puna e tū ana i runga i te atāmira, e haka ana i runga i te atāmira. I te rangi tuatahi, Napier Boys and Girls, ka tū i te rangi tuatahi. I nanahi rā ko te kura kaupapa Māori o Ngāti Kahungunu ki here taunga. I te rangi nei ko te kura kaupapa Māori o te wānanga whare tapere o Tākitimu. Ko rātou e haka ana i runga i tērā atāmira. Ko tātou e haka nei i tēnei atāmira i te rangi nei. Nō reira, tēnā tātou i roto i tēnei whare. Tēnā tātou e haka ana, mo te reo, mo tō tātou ahu reo, mo tō tātou whenua, tēnei kā mihi, tēnei kā mihi. Huri no i te whare ko te mea nui e rongo nei koutou i te aroha, i te mihi a te manawa i tēnei rā, tēnā koutou, kia ora tātou katoa.
Kia ora, Petera. Uncle Bevan?
Oi anō, e ki ana me ki ko te amorangi ki mu, ko te hāpai o ki muri. Ai te tuturutanga mahi pono, a te maari mani mo te haki. Ai he mango pare a mohi o te wakataki timu hei whakakuititanga hei whakakite. E rere e te hua te hopu ki rere te mani ka to mokia. E kore e ngaro te kakano i ruri e mai rangi āsi. Nā reika te mihi ati ki a koe e tarangatira. E tarangati o tērā o tātou nei marae, i o maha. Nā tēne manu, i upoko iri, o i anō tēnei, e mihi ati ki a koe e whakatau nei. I a tātou katoa, huri rauna me ki ngā marae e whakahuhua mai e koe. E siko hoki, e stu ana me ki te mihi ki a tātou. Ue rā me ki o ngā tūnga o tātou nei mātua tūpuna e kore e ngaro. Mara he mihi tēnā. Me mihi hoki ki a koe, a me ki e mihi atu ki a rātou, a ko mene ki te pō. Ngā tōrua, ngā tokotoru. I mate ai me ki ai i ngā ngaru. E riri ana me ki i a tangaro. Reira he mihi, ai, e te mamahara hoki me ki, ai kia rātou katoa. I mate ai me ki i ngā tau, ko pahakera. Reira, ai he te tautoko. Ai te tautoko. Hoi anō, ai aroha hoki, me kia rātou ki te wairo. He timata mai te rāwhiti, heke mai ki te wairo hopu. Matangi rau, a ki konai, ki hau moana, ki ngāti kautere, a ngāti hāwe. Rātau hāpuri i reira. Ma reira, a tēnei, e mihi atu ki a rātau. Hoi anō, kore tēnei me ke, i te rorawa me ke tēnei kōrero. I nei te mihi atu ki a koe Sandra, ai te matupapa o tēnei o tātou nei kauni hera, me ki i tō kauni hera noho nei me ki ai ngā tepu nei. Nā rei te mihi e karanga mai me ki i a tātou te māhia, kia hara mai. Kia hara mai ki tēnei kaupa nui rawa e ki mai me ki te rangatira. Ai tika hoki, nā rei te mihi atu ki ngā whakaaro o te kauni hera e ki ana me ki tō tātou nei a whenua tap o tātou nei mātu tupuna. Nā koutou rā me ki i ati tiro i tautoko ana me ki wetai e whakaputa mai ai tō mātou nei committee e whakahua mai nei. Nō reira e chaki mai we rā o ngā whenua mautonu. Nō reira tēnei e mihi atu Baden, ai, pai kisi a koe, tātou nei toi hau o tātou nei waki a tāki timu, kia hoi tahi tātou, kia whakokatahi me ki ta whakaaro a ta Māori, kia haere tahi tātou i ngā wahi katoa, ia tūpakari tātou i mui a tātou i mui i te kawana, i ngā kauni hera, i ngā komiti pēnaina. Nō reira, koutou, e te kauni hera, ngā mema, ai kia koe ai te rāmuti. Ko tau koe me kiki tēnei tō tūru hau i nei i Wainganui me ke i te kauni hera o Heretanga, nō rei kia kaha koe. Kia kaha koe ki te whakaputa me ki te whakaaro Māori, kia rosi a koe. Kia pai ai me ki te huarhei mo tātou te Māori i Wainganui me ki i te hāpori o Heretanga. Nō reira tēnei e mihi atu ki a tātou, nō reira tēnā tātou, tēnā hoki koe anō, e ki te tēpū, ai tēnā tātou katoa. Ka piti hono tātai hono hoki mai me ki tātai, ai tēnā tātai, ai tēnā tātai, kei raro.
Kia ora, Matua Bevan and Manga Haururu Tangutu. It's wonderful to have you with us today, and Tania and everyone, thank you for that beautiful address and karakia. Could I now invite Baden, our chair of Ngāti Kahungunu, you might just like to come forward and just have a couple of words.
Hoi no kia ora tātou, i tā tātou nei hui i tēnei rā. Sandra, tēnā koe. Kua tōra atu ngā ringa pōhiri kia mātou ngā hapu, kua tae mai nei tēnei rā. Bevan, koutou mā, Manga Haururu Tangutu, me tā koutou nei kaupapa, tā tātou nei kaupapa, hei kōrero tanga mā tātou i tēnei rā. Pētera, tēnā koe hoa, kua ko whakatauhia mai enei hunga, ki roto ki tēnei ngā whare, no tātou tēnei whare. No reira, ko haere mai mātou o Waimārama, ki te kau nei i tātou tēnei kaupapa i tēnei rā. No reira, mihi ana ki ngā kaikauni hira, e noho nei ki te tēpū, me ngā whakaro nui ki ngā mea ko ngaro nei, i ngā rire o te moana, te whānui o te Wairoa, me haumoana, kua pākia nei ki te āhuatanga o Tāwhiri Mātea, ina nahi. No reira, mihi ana ki a koutou i tata tēnei hui tēnei rā. Ko hikaka a Waimārama te haere mai nei. Ko ro tēnei kaupapa a mātou, ko tārewa nei ki te rangi. No reira tēnei rangi nei ka haere mai mātou ki te whakarongo, ki ngā kōrero, ki ngā tohei wainganui a koutou, ngā matapaki i tēnei kaupapa. Ko roa nei a Waimārama i kōkiri nei. No reira, e mihi ana ki a koutou, e noho nei ki ngā tūru wera, ki a koutou te mana i te rānei. Kia whakatauhia nei tēnei kaupapa. No reira, mihi nei ki a koutou o tira ki a tātou huri no te whare tēnā tātou katoa. Sandra, tēnā koe. Bevan, Tania, mga hariru, tagitu, tēnā koutou. I think I was talking this kaupapa back when I was on the council. So it may be coming to a close, so kapai. Rawe tēnā. Our whanaunga from Ngāti Hineuru, tēnā koutou. Ki te nei ngā maunga ki Rungara, titi o kura, ki uta motu o kura ki tai. And so tērā hononga, ko tau nei i te rānei. And so without further ado, thank you for the opportunity to come in and to join in with the council as they go about the deliberations today. We certainly have shared our whakaro with the council, and I guess now it's up to the councillors to take all that information on board and to make the best decision for our community. So with that, mihi ana ki a koutou, tātou, huri no tēnā koutou, tēnā hui tātou katoa.
Kia ora. Kia ora tātou.
Ka pai. Tūtira mai ngā iwi, or do you want to speak first and then we can do your waiata, or how do you want to do it? Sandra? Okay, ka pai.
Fabulous. Kia ora tātou. Thank you very much, Baden Ngā Nui. Councillors, and very warm welcome from me. Nigel and I have had a very important meeting with the Minister of Finance, Minister Nicola Willis, just now, and the important kaupapa of rebuilding our roads and housing and our recovery. And as we know, our last 2 days we have had some major challenges in our Homoana community. So it was important for us to have that kōrero with her one-on-one, how we resilient as Hiritonga Hastings and Te Matua Māui, and how we build back from these big events. So I'm going to go right to item 6, councillors, and this is the recommendation to make the Hastings District Plan fully operative. I'd like to welcome you. Anna, did you want to come forward? And I'd first of all like to invite Tania from Mangaharuru Tangitu to speak, and just the journey that you've been on, and it's very important that we sign the plan if that is what people see fit. So over to you. Thank you, Tania.
It's just magic. Very pleased to be here and to mark this occasion. I was talking to Rowan this morning, one of the kaimahi here from the council, about how long ago was it really when we started this. And he reminded me that it was the end of 2013 that we started this. So we didn't want to just let this slip by without actually marking this occasion, because it really signals the end of a very long period of work by many, and we just wanted to be able to share this moment with you. For many of the councillors here, I don't imagine that most of you were here when this process started. So this was the review of the Hastings District Plan. In fact, we're ready to go again now, aren't we? Sadly, but we were interested for the first time in having our wāhi taonga included in the Hastings District Plan. And prior to that point, and prior to now, there are none of our wāhi taonga included in the district plan. So it was a big void that we wanted to fill. And we had just settled, we just signed a deed of settlement in 2013. So this was really important to us off the back of a couple of big cases that we'd been involved in relating to maunga haruru, which you can see on the screen there. This is our maunga tapu. We share it with our western neighbours, Ngāti Hiniuru, and so a big mihi to our Hiniuru whānau here in the chambers today. Thank you for coming. And throughout this journey, Hiniuru have been a great support to us. So some of the wāhi taonga that we're talking about are on maunga haruru. And what prompted us to engage in the district plan process was we'd just been through these cases where several developers wanted to build wind farms up on maunga haruru. Around 2006, I think, 2005, that was when Unison wanted to develop a wind farm. Prior to that, there had been a wind farm consented. It was before we were around as a PSGE, and we just didn't have the wherewithal or resources at the time to oppose it. So that one got through, and you see that one today now on the Napier Taupō Road. As you're going over to Taupō, you climb up maunga haruru and you see all the Meridian turbines. That's the wind farm that got through. There was going to be another couple of wind farms on the other side of the road, which for consent we opposed. And we went through a whole lot of court cases, Environment Court, High Court. There was even threats to go to the Court of Appeal. A second varied wind farm proposal after the first one was declined by the courts was put forward and then called in by the minister, and then it went straight to the Environment Court, and then it was declined again. So we felt we'd been through the ringer, and we thought, what could we do differently to avoid having to go through these processes, or at least try and signal how important some of these places are. And that's why we engaged in this plan process, to put our wāhi taonga on the map, so it would come as no surprise to people that some of these places were really significant to us. That's what prompted us. So I've actually got a few slides, but I'm going to really whiz through them because I know you've got a lot of business to do, but I do want to give you a flavour of what we've been able to achieve. So I'd also like to acknowledge one of our kaumātua who's not here to have seen this being completed, and that's Mātua Fred Reti. We have one of his nephews in the room here today, and so it's really special to us. Many of our whānui will know Uncle Fred. He was instrumental, along with Uncle Bevan, in sharing the kōrero and identifying the sites that are now going to be in the plan. We also worked with a whole lot of agencies, the councils, Hawke's Bay Regional Council, and DOC. And this is because I'm going to say about 95% of the sites are on private land. They're not on land that we own. you've heard me talk before about Raupatu and how we lost land. And some of the sites were on HBRC or DOC land, so we were able to have their support in actually having these recognised. So we want to acknowledge them in this journey. We had a really dedicated team of whānau. I'm actually in that photo, but I'm more wiser and wider now. And this is the team that we had. And we had people from Elizabeth Pashif on the right of that photo in the floppy hat, who's an archaeologist. We had photographers. We've got some of our whānau here today who were heavily involved in this project, which took many months of going from site to site. We had video recordings of kaumātua telling the stories of these sites. We had archaeologists, we had professional photographers, and we had whānau who brought all their passion to helping record these sites. So it was a big team effort. The sites are all range: pā, kāinga, mahinga kai, places where we gather kai. It's not just all wāhi tapu. Some people think that the sites that are important are necessarily sacred. Some sites are kai collecting sites, and we love our kai, so it's really important to us. So it's a range of sites, including river banks, lakes, urupa, all sorts. As you know, the benefit of being listed in the plan is that people will know that there's public acknowledgement of these sites. They can be included on PIMs and LIMs. And it also means the council's aware of what areas will be sensitive, and it means that when there is a consent process that we're involved. I'm not going to go through the provisions except to say that it's if you don't meet this requirement here, if what you propose to do on a wāhi taonga is going to disturb, destroy, modify, then it's a restricted discretionary process. What we were conscious of is most of our sites are rural. In fact, all of them are rural. Most of them are farms. And so we wanted to try and accommodate the fact that these sites were already being grazed and used as farms. So we tried to accommodate that in some of the permitted activities. And I've mentioned that it's a restricted discretionary activity otherwise. I wanted to share with you some of the sites that, the many sites that we were able to agree with council should be included. Hene Katorangi just looks like a paddock there. It's actually a wetland, and if you go past the Pampac site, Pampac Mill, and you're going towards Tangoil, you can see all that water at the moment, which has been quite prominent since the cyclone. That's Hene Katorangi. That's one of our wetlands that we wanted to see protected. Many of you will probably know Flat Rock and Whakaari out off Tangoil Beach. Whakaari is now included as a wāhi taonga. As you're looking along Tangoil Beach, there's a hillock or a mound there. Probably you would blink and miss it, probably wouldn't notice it. It's actually a really important boundary marker for us, and that's called Pane Pawa. Those of you who drive to Wairoa, and we're thinking of our Wairoa whānau today and what they're going through, but as you go past where Tangoil Marae is and where the buildings were, you start to climb where Tangoil Falls is, and as you start climbing there, that's the pā of Toi to your left. That's a whole pā site there. Toi being the discoverer, this is his most southern pā in New Zealand. It also includes sites on the coast like Tiwhanui, which is the highest point on the coast between Tangoil and Waikato. It also includes lakes. So we, through our settlement, own the lake beds. We don't own the lake edges, but they've been included as an area that's important. Pā sites around Lake Tūtera, Oporai, and some of those of you who are history buffs will be familiar with Tūtera Station, book by Guthrie Smith. He identifies a lot of the sites at Tūtera, and these hand-drawn images are from his book. So Oporai is one of them. Tauranga Ko'o is an island or a floating island in Lake Tūtera. That's one of the sites that's been protected. The part that we own, which is about half of it. Te Rewa Hinitu, those of you who go to the campground at Tūtera, the bit of land between the two lakes, Tūtera and Waikopiro, That's part of a kāinga parasite complex called Te Rewa Ahinitu. That's included. And this is what it looked like in Guthrie Smith's imagination of the day. Waikopiro, the small lake at Tūtera. And then the lake you don't often see, unless you climb the hill at Tūtera, which is across the State Highway 2, is Ōrākai. That's also been included. The hill looking over the lakes has been included. And they're not just included for no reason. They've got a kōrero that goes with them that makes it really special. One thing I should add is that having lost a lot of land, or most of our land through Raupatu, we're very acutely aware of how sensitive these sites are because they tell our story, our history. They're our photograph album of our history and our stories of our people. So hence the love for these sites. In this case, a rock feature, which is a place of a significant event that happened for Pūrāhui Tangi here, a pretty violent event, and some of the land leading up to it was included. There are also sites that have forestry on them, past sites. In the past, some of our foresters, Pampak, Matariki, they have been very careful about protecting archaeological sites and have looked to avoid planting up those sites or using them as skids. However, for us, past sites are not just the bit where the archaeological remains are. It's also the whole feature. So down the sides is where people were buried, but often they're not, they're not visible to you today. So the whole feature was something that was important. And as part of this process, we were able to agree with the forestry companies how those areas would be managed in the future. So I am grateful for the cooperation of our forestry companies in recognising these sites. On the Hiniuru site, as you're going from the Pito Te Ao, Te Haroto, coming back over the Maunga Hararu range from west to east, you come and just before you go over the Mohaka Bridge, the Mohaka River, the bridge there, before you start climbing Maunga Hararu, if you look really carefully on the cliff face, you can't really see it here, but there's an orange patch here. This is a really important wahi tapu for us, which is a place where one of our tipuna passed, and it's a symbol for our iwi of an impending doom. When this shows really bright orange, it means that something bad is coming. It's a really serious tohu for us. So we wanted that cliff face protected. So you might see that. Don't look while you're driving, because you'll have another. That's not the way to do it. You need to pull over and have a look if you want to have a look, or there'll be another disaster before you know it. Up on Maunga Hararu, hopefully you're familiar with Opoahi and the Kiwi creche there. That's been included as a wahi taonga. Some of the past sites you might have seen if you're out exploring and going to Shine Falls. After you turn off where the Tūtera shop is and you're going along that road, there's actually two past sites there. Kokopuru, the one that's like a cone, Matarangi, which is a bit more of a flatter shape. Again, these are found in Guthrie Smith's books, his book about Tūtera, and he talks about some of the battles that took place there. So that's a selection, not all of them, it's a selection of the wahi taonga that we were able to agree. There were some that we didn't agree. They were much larger sites, and we had issues around the extent of the sites, and what provisions would apply to them. And this became the subject of years of litigation. And MTT and the council and the landowners didn't see eye to eye on these sites. So off to court we went, but one of the sites, as I said, is Maunga Hararu. And in relation to Maunga Hararu, there's different wahi taonga on Maunga Hararu. I'm just going to point them out here for you, because if you're on Napier Hill looking west, or if you're at the airport looking at the runway, look up, and on a clear day, particularly when it's the afternoon, you can see in relief Maunga Hararu. We don't have a maunga that looks like this, we have a maunga that looks like this. It's a long range. And on the maunga is this waka o Ngā Rangi Kātaka, which is a canoe. It's got a story based in Māui's time. And this is the taurapa, or the back of the canoe. And then you've got the front of the canoe here, so it's heading this way. And it comes down to Titiao Kura, which is a name much revered by our neighbours from Ngāti Hiniuru. On our side, we call this maunga Maunga Hararu, and on their side, they refer to it as Titiao Kura. Same maunga. Titiao Kura for us is the saddle that you go over. And this image is taken before the wind farm was built. The two highest peaks here are particularly tapu to us. Te Ahu o Te Atua is the first peak, and then there's another one. Some people call them the Double Dome, and it's Tarapo Nui. So all across the top here are sites of importance, but the maunga itself is important. So again, that's Te Waka o Ngā Rangi Kātaka, just different views here. The saddle at Titiao Kura, the Double Dome. And then the other large site, a couple of pā sites on the coast that were also up for discussion in the appeals, was Te Puku o Te Wheki. Those of you who've been to Arapawa Nui, look up to your left as you are looking out to sea. This is the stomach of the octopus. And then at Moeangiangi, I don't know if many of you have been to Moeangiangi because the access is private, but there are some stunning pā sites there because of how steep the land is there. You don't get it in this view, but you get it in this view. So myself and Liz Pashif and Pat Parsons, we walked up the zigzag. We walked around this horseshoe shape, identifying all the pits for kāinga. And there's some pits up here, but to get from here to here, Liz and I had to slide down on our bottoms. That's how steep it was. So if you were going to attack that pā, you needed to be really, really fit and not scared of heights. Another pā that was included in the appeals was Te Whārangi Pā, which is at Waipātiki. So if you're going to the beach at Waipātiki, look left. That hillside there is Te Whārangi. I'm not going to go through what we argued about, what we debated. The decisions, where they landed was in 2018, the Environment Court recognised all these sites as wāhi taonga and asked the parties to go away and work out what the extents would be, which we couldn't agree. And then, what have I got there? It then went to the High Court. The High Court referred it back to the Environment Court. And then finally in 2021, the Environment Court provided its decision, again confirming all those big sites were wāhi taonga, agreed to some of the extents that MTT had put forward and disagreed with some of the extents. So there's different extents for those sites. Some of them were accepted in total and some of them were reduced. And the court preferred the council's rules. So the council's rules were more permissive about the activities that could be undertaken on these sites without having to get a consent. MTT wanted something more protective and more restrictive. Happy days. We ended up concluding all the appeals, but not before one of the landowners took us back to the High Court and then wanted to seek leave to the Court of Appeal, but wasn't successful, and MTT was successful on those appeals. And that finished it. So, where are we today? Today, my understanding as a result of the orders from the Environment Court, well, actually it might be the High Court, I apologise, the High Court, is that all these approved wāhi taonga are now part of an operative plan, but it needs to come back here for you to formalise that. And so after 10.5 years, this is where we are. This is where we are. I'd like to say that we've had a lot of learnings, probably not for this forum, but for another forum. We've learnt a lot about protecting wāhi taonga. We've learned a lot about engagement with landowners. We've learned a lot about working with our council colleagues about how to make these things, flow more smoothly for everybody. And we know that the work is not over because there's still other sites that we want to see protected. Napier City Council is now going through this process and working with mana whenua groups to do that. And I think what it does is it celebrates the history we have. It celebrates that history. Having a restricted discretionary status for these sites does not veto development, but it does bring to the decision-making process a discussion about why these sites are important. And so we feel heard. In that decision-making. It also means that we can have the discussions before people invest a lot of money in doing stuff and then they're really stuck on a particular project. So we hope that all of this actually yields benefits for everybody all round. The last thing I wanted to say was that these wāhi taonga don't just live out there for us. They're part of everybody's history who lives here in Hawke's Bay. And the best way, in our view, to protect them in the long term is to share that kōrero. So we have another project that's underway that's due to be completed this year, and it's called Te Rerenga Kārearea. It talks about the flight of the kārearea over our wāhi taonga. And we have funding to erect 6 to 7 po, but they'll be modern style po, not carved po. And they'll have codes or links on them that will enable those with smartphones to look at augmented reality at that site and bring to life the stories at that site. This is great for kids, right? This is great for all our kids to learn a little bit about the history of an area through a tool that they love. They'll be able to hear it and they'll be able to see it. So as an example, I talked about Te Waka o Ngā Rangi Kātaka, the waka that's stuck in the maunga. How did it get there? Well, we'll be telling that story using this. And so, finally, we have a whakatauki, whatu ngaro ngaro te tangata, toitu te whenua. So we're all going to come and go, but the land will remain. And we hope those features will remain. And an American author described it in a really nice way. He said, we cannot protect something we do not love. We cannot love what we do not know. And we cannot know what we do not see and touch and hear. So we want people to know these stories that we hope will become part of their stories. So that's the big project. And thank you for your time. Thank you for allowing us to share this with you today. It means a lot to us and to all our whānau who are here today. So, ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa.
Kia ora, Tania, ngā mihi nui. Thank you for allowing us to understand, to share and hear the importance and significance of what this means to Arohi. And can I also acknowledge you, Mana Hazel, from Ngāti Hiniaruru. It's lovely to have you here too, and the journey that we've shared today on your behalf as well. Councillor Kerr? Oh, so Councillor Jessup.
Kia ora, thank you, Your Worship. Tanya, Uncle Bevan, Auntie, Mangaharuru Tangatu Hapu, it's been an absolute honour to be on a journey with you, be it in the background, Tanya, for the last 10.5 years of Māori. I've been fortunate to learn a little as we've gone through this journey, and I love this new project that you have. Thank you for sharing your valuable taonga with the world, because that's a very special thing to do. And given your history of confiscation of rāpatu, and we're so now aware of the very little land that Mangaharuru Tangatu have available to them for the purpose of building a marae, a heart. I'd just like to also share with Council your incredible gift to the people of New Zealand. Mangaharuru Tangatu have gifted, after their settlement, 4, to me, really significant pieces of land back to the people of New Zealand. And if you haven't been into this area, I strongly recommend you do. They gifted back Boundary Stream Scenic Reserve, gifted back Bell Bush Scenic Reserve, the Balance of Okuahi Scenic Reserve, and Whakaari Landing Place Reserve, which we saw. And to me, that just highlights the generosity of the hapu of Mangaharuru Tangatu. And so thank you very much for your wisdom, for your gifts and sharing of these wāhitanga that we're able to protect through our district plan. And I really am looking forward to giving it the go. Thank you. Thank you, Worship.
Kia ora. Councillor Jessup.
Ngā mihi mahana, he kaka taku nākau ki a koutou katoa I tēnei wā. It has been a long haerenga, and we've got recognition that your taongas are going to be in this recommendation. How do you explain what you've lost? But te rerenga a karere is a taonga that we all can partake, not just for the history, but for our tamariki going forward. And that's what you've achieved today, Ngāti Honoru. I'd like to acknowledge you all. I'd like to recommend this wholeheartedly on behalf of Te Kaunihara o Heretaunga. Thank you. Ngā mihi.
Kia ora. Thank you. Councillor Tio Skipworth.
Ngā mihi nui kia koutou I tēnei ahehei. Kia ora Tania and whānau Papa Bevan. I think as a council we are here to put in place something that should have been put in place 180 plus years ago. And I think the conversation that's had today is historical, and I hope that we all hold on to that as councillors in every decision making that we make in these chambers. But as our Utaina o Mahu Whanaunga eloquently relayed was Papa Bevan and our kaumātua Kororeti, you are the kaihaka of today, but we have down in Whakatū many kaihaka ready to come through and ensure that this type of kōrero and these resolutions remain, as you say, Tania nō reira, tēnā tātou katoa.
Kia ora. Kia ora. I have a mover and a seconder. Any further comments or any further questions? Just happy to put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against? That is carried unanimously. Congratulations, everybody.
Come on, Nancy. Oh.
Councillors, now we'll go straight into item 7. And this is the Waimarama Beach vehicle access. And a very warm welcome to our community of Waimarama and also our fishing community. And lovely to have our ex-councillor Brownrigg with us today and all of our whānau from Waimarama. Pardon? And Councillor Sophie Sears. I didn't see you up there. Very warm welcome to you. Thank you, Craig. Welcome to Colin and Jeff, who have been working with the community on item 7, vehicle access at Waimarama Beach. And I'll just ask you to take us through this paper and anything you wish to add to the paper, and then we'll go straight into questions on this item. Did you want to add anything to your paper? I know we've had an extensive workshop on this, but if there's anything, any new information you wish to add, very happy to hear it now.
Perhaps if we could just shoot to that one there. As you quite rightly say, we've had a workshop on this, we've had a lot of discussion. So perhaps if we get, we'll take the report as read, but as a result of the feedback of the second round, Council received nearly, and this is really a summary of the last nearly a year, 1,300 submissions or feedback have come through to Council. The combined consultation periods have not revealed an overwhelmingly strong option that would give Council an abundance of clarity or direction in its decision making. There's not really one sort of knockout blow that has come through, if you like. However, the feedback has shown that a large section of the community, and that's not only the Waimarama community itself, but also the wider community, supports a number of issues that need to be looked at, if you like, collectively. They're looking at a proactive response to ensuring beach users are safe, and they're also looking to provide legitimate users with a level of vehicular access, and on top of that, they're also mainly looking at protecting the beach environment, the coastal environment, and addressing the concerns of adjoining landowners. So the feedback and communication over recent years also shows that there's been a gathering mood for a more restrictive control of vehicles on Waimarama Beach. There's been a growing call for more for Council to consider the ban or extending the ban. So on this basis, officers have recommended a hybrid beach ban, and that's as in the report, which both restricts vehicles on much of the beach, but also allows vehicles in specific designated areas to carry out some of those activities that were raised in the submission process as being legitimate and, if you like, low impact users such as fishers or where disabled people want to see. So in doing so, in addition, the map that's been put forward to you, and perhaps to explain it, there was scope within submissions to extend, if we go back to if we remember that earlier options, the 4 options that went to the community, the 4th option restricted vehicles up until the Paparewa Reserve, there or thereabouts, and there was submission saying, well, if you're looking at a ban in that area isn't well used, it would make sense to extend the ban further south to where, if you like, beach access becomes nigh on impossible. So our hybrid map includes that extra area. It also designates at your boat launching area a place there where vehicles can go down and continue the boat launching that currently occurs there. It also, if we are moving further north, the area around the Pahokio stream, we've increased some of the ban area there, on the map, basically because at the moment there is access via Airini Road Reserve, which can take you down onto the beach. And we've done that on the basis, if you go a little bit further north, we're leaving an access, we're recommending or suggesting an access, a vehicle access area there of approximately 500 metres to allow those legitimate users to go down in vehicles and park there, but going north, they would be banned from going north, therefore protecting the rights and concerns not only of the landowners that have adjoined the beach, but also the concerns raised by many about the ecology, the environment, and keeping vehicles primarily out of those dunes. An issue was raised about extending it even further north, and officers at this stage are recommending it end as per the map here, and that is because there are properties that legally require access onto the beach as a road to access their properties, but we know that some mana whenua owners there have said those issues can be worked through. What we would suggest is if those legal access issues are worked through in the future, council can revisit it and extend the ban further north at its discretion, and probably reasonably simply after the decisions are made at this point here. So, any questions, Rita?
Thank you, Colin. Councillor Watkin.
Thank you, Worship. Mr. Hosford, just looking at the northern green vehicle access area, what would make you think that people on vehicles would observe the two lines? With all the problems we've had, and this whole issue has come about by vehicles doing all sorts of things on the beach that don't mix with people. So what is the mechanism to absolutely enforce that green?
Through you, Your Worship. And that is a very good question and probably the most vexatious issue on this beach. We know at the moment that we have a partial ban outside, and I'll call it the surf club, but the surf club domain, and people are observing that. We have signage up, and people have been telling people for years, keep out. So there's a level of, if we like, passive control there. We know that the police themselves will police it, but as the report informs you, the police have freely admitted they don't have the resources to be there 365 days of the year. We would need signage, and we would need education. There is the opportunity, and we haven't traversed it in this report, that if council was, if this option is actually adopted, you could start looking at barriers across the beach there to stop, to actually stop vehicles going further north and actually rigidly enforce it, whether it be some form of material that was laid on the beach, just to stop vehicles going. And I think a lot of this will be, we're just going to have to monitor. If we go with this option, it's going to have to be monitored. We would have to check its efficiency and effectiveness, and look to see are there other interventions needed.
Thank you. Councillor Harvey.
Yes, thank you, Mayor Hazelhurst. I'm a little bit worried that I may have influenced the length of that, of where it's been extended to based on previous council meeting, in which is now the full length of the beach, in an incident that I had seen down happen by the reef. But how, by going out with just the one option, and it is probably the most restrictive option, is that an attempt to also get greater consultation from the community? That's one question. I've got another one.
I think this is a distillation, I think we'd call it a distillation of multiple engagements and consultation. We think this is it's, in a sense, it offers a level of satisfactory solution for a number of submitters who actually raised issues themselves, whether it be the landowners. Yes, we're giving them a level of protection. It's not everything they would want. For the fisher folk and others who want to legitimately get down there and enjoy the beach, but have issues with perhaps mobility or carrying heavy gear, yes, this gives them something. It doesn't give them the whole beach that they probably wanted. And I was going to make the comment, a halfway house, but it's giving a level of satisfaction to all those groups.
Just a couple more questions,
Yes,
thank you.
okay.
During this consultation period, and because one of my biggest concerns is actually around the recreational surfcaster, fisherman who goes out there and may have been going out there for 40, 50 years, never caused anybody any issues whatsoever. It's just an amazing recreational pastime for them. Will we, obviously we will be further engaging with them, but will we look at any form of registration as part of that?
We probably haven't got down to that detail at the moment, but that is something, if council is of a mood, that we have some form of licensing. But our hope at this stage here is if we give the people that area, then they can go and fish and they can do their surf casting. And if they're outside that, if they decide to go north and they're identified, it doesn't matter whether they're a legitimate fisherman or someone who's driving there, then the police can, if you go over the line in the sand, then police can actually enforce the bylaw.
Thank you. And then just my final one, by going for the full extension of the beach as the one and only option, where does that land if that consultation comes back and we're back to some of the other options that have already been put in front of us?
Thank you, John. Is that you answering that? Thank you.
I guess what you'd do is you'd be back to the start period again. So bear in mind, and Colin covered it very well, is we've had 2 rounds of quite extensive consultation. The first kind of trying to determine what the issue is, the second putting up 4 options, and then this bylaw is specific to this proposal. So say, for instance, I think that's what you're saying, Damon, is you run through the process and there's no consensus to proceed with it. Then the council has to decide whether they go back and start on that process. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Butto. Oh, so Councillor Dixon.
Thank you, Worship. Just a question of clarification, really. A bicycle is also a vehicle. Did you mean to include bicycles or not? Are they in or they out?
Motorised vehicles.
So that's probably what should be in the recommendations. Motorised vehicles, not just vehicles, just a recommendation.
That's fine. That can be it. Thank you. Good point.
Thank you, Worship. For clarification, Mr. Osford, would this mean that the rocks at the end of Te Akatai Road would be removed? And as a follow-up question, has alternative access through perhaps the domain to the north of Te Akatai Road or another option being considered, or is that some of the detail that is yet to come?
No other access has been looked at. If council adopts to have that limited access area for those uses, then the rocks, we would have to remove the rocks to let them go through. But there's no intention of, for instance, opening. If you look at the Te Akatai Road, there's a reserve to the north and south. If you open up the access to the north, then you're kind of defeating the whole purpose, because you're letting you're creating an alternative access to vehicles, and that's not what this hybrid option is recommending.
Councillor Teo Skip.
Thank you. You spoke about if we had the hybrid option that you'd look at an educational process to educate people on where they can and can't go. The hapu have been in and clearly laid out their reasons for and against, and I wondered if you looked at the option of educational purposes in regards to Taonga Tuku Iho. They've talked about the Waihi Tapu sites, and if we go to the previous hapu that were in here before, I'm sure we all enjoyed the historical information that we were given. So when we talk about educational themes, could we look at the educational themes being Taonga Tuku Iho no ngā hapu instead of the green hybrid model?
It's probably addressing what we could do. We could certainly educate, put up signage on those special values that the beach has. What we could also do is, in our LTP, we have some funds set aside for some modest improvements at Waimarama. We could look at the installation of bollards and some barriers along, if you like, within the just in the dune network to actually protect those areas which tend to have more of the Waihi Tapu in particular, and those special values. So there are some opportunities for further protecting along that more fragile edge of the beach.
Councillor Apatu.
Thank you, Ms. Sandra. The theme of safety for me came across loud and clear from the whānau of Waimarama, so I'm very supportive of the extension. My query is, if we adopt a bylaw eventually that might look like this, does that make it a little bit easier or less of a process to then tweak around the edges? For example, if the whānau of Waimarama eventually wanted to extend a bit further, does the process become a bit easier for that to be adopted?
Ask Mr O'Shaughnessy to answer that, because we started this journey with one area in 2013.
I think you've hit it on the head, and that's exactly what Colin's saying is, say for instance, those land and access issues can be sorted out, then it can be extended. And as you can see in the recommendations, because of the fact that it is relatively similar to the original area, it makes it easier. And we see this as changing and progressing. It's happened all around the beaches in New Zealand, as they get busier. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor, direction, please. Thank you, Councillor Dixon. Second, Councillor Apatu.
Peter, second.
Thank you. And Councillor Dixon, can I just, there is a hearing if council wishes to hear from people. So can I just get a direction, please, on whether or not you consider we would require a hearing? My view is that we wouldn't, but that's entirely over for us to discuss, and you as the mover to consider. Thank you. Councillor Apatu, are you comfortable with that?
Absolutely, thank you.
So can we make a note of that, officers, that a hearing would not be required? Thank you. And is there any further comments, councillors? Thank you. Councillor Harvey?
Yeah, thank you. Can we I'd just like to make sure that there is quite a good awareness of that we will be out for this consultation period, and that obviously the targeted groups who you have been working with anyway, Colin and your team, that they are advised, and we make sure that we get in some good information, further information about this.
Thank you. No further questions or comments. I have a right of reply. Councillor Dixon, would you wish to right of reply? Thank you. Okay, I have a recommendation, a mover and a second. I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Can I thank our whānau of Waimarama and our fishermen community for coming in today, and we have a direction now that we will take to the community. Thank you very much to the officers for your work and for the process that we have undertaken over the last, since December last year actually, so it's been some time, and hope everybody brings their submissions forward. Thank you very much. Lovely to see you. You're very welcome to stay to the next items, or you may like to go. You've been here for some time. So thank you everybody for coming in today. We appreciate that. All right, councillors, please be seated. We're going back now to the beginning. No problem. Oh, good. Okay, just waiting for councillors to be seated. Starting with apologies and leave of absence. I have no apologies received today, but I have leave of absence requested by Councillor Lawson for the 14th of August to the 23rd of August. Any other requests for leave? Councillor Butto.
Thank you, Worship. At 3 p.m, there is a Rural Advisory Group meeting, which I'm the chair of, and I would like to be an apology for half an hour to chair that meeting.
Okay, thank you. Happy to move from the chair that we accept the leave of absence. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Conflicts of interest, can I just remind councillors as we get to any items that they remove themselves from those items that they consider there may be a conflict. Item 4, confirmation of minutes, 9th of May. That the minutes of the council meeting held on Thursday the 9th of May be confirmed as an accurate record. Could I have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Watkins. Seconded, Councillor Dixon. Any changes? All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Moving on now to what have we been doing over the last month? Well, and firstly, can I acknowledge all of our councillors who have done some wonderful mahi for us all and out there in our community. And you may not be showcased on here that my EA's put together, but I just want to thank you for those who have represented, particularly me in times when we've had 3 or 4 engagements on the same day. And I'm truly grateful. So we started off our month with the Samoan Language Week and flag raising ceremony. And what a beautiful ceremony that was. And if any of you have not been to Samoan Language Week and celebrated, you would have seen that I have a beautiful new politasi to wear, and it is amazing to be working with our Samoan community and to understand the significance of what Language Week means to them and their independence and their freedom. So these are really important things for you to attend because, you know, it's so important to them. So that was a wonderful flag raising ceremony. We had a great walk around the village with Hamilton Logan, a 99-year-old amazing man in our community who's fundraising. with Councillor Fowler and Councillor Nixon and Councillor Dixon. And we walked around the village green with him, and he shared his stories of his 99 years. And how special was that? And he invited us then to share those stories with a drink, and an absolute true, very, very proud Hawke's Bay man and a legend, a local legend. The pōhiri for our new councillors, Councillor Teo Skipworth and Councillor Hana Monteperto Hendry. It was a wonderful day, our chamber was full, and it was a wonderful welcome to our new councillors who are now doing a great job. And Hana, can I acknowledge you in your last 2 days in the Hau Moana community. You must be feeling very tired, but you're here in spirit. You have worked all night. You've been working all night and all day. And when I saw her yesterday with the minister, I said, you need to go home and have some sleep. She said no, she had more work to do. So can I acknowledge, our Hau Moana community, what they've been through in the last 2 days. We're very pleased the state of emergency has been lifted, and we're very pleased that our families can return to their homes in Hau Moana. We had the wonderful Big Sing, and I presented an award to the Big Sing concert at Toi Toi, and seeing all our secondary schools come together for the Big Sing, it was a fabulous night and showcased the incredible talent we've got here in Herutanga Hastings. We had the Hawke's Bay Art Guide Showcase, and it was attended by Councillor Dixon. Thank you, Malcolm, for attending on our behalf. A very important art guide for us to be able to be part of. We've had citizenship ceremonies, and led by Councillor Dixon. Thank you for taking that while I was taking a weekend off. I truly appreciate that. We had the grand opening of the Kironga Terraces development, and thank you, Councillor Fowler, for attending that on my behalf. The Rotary Club of Hastings centenary celebrations, that celebration of 100 years of Hastings Rotary was pretty amazing for me to learn about how the mayors in the day came about. And they're all part of the Hastings Rotarians. And then the Rotarians would go and say to the next person, you are the next candidate to be the mayor. And to understand that and see some of the names over the last 100 years of the mayors of Hastings, and those gentlemen all were part of the Hastings Rotary, and Councillor Fowler was able to share the history with me of how the significance of being a Hastings Rotarian and the connection to being the Hastings Mayor. Fascinating for me to understand that. The blessing ceremony of our new building at Hastings Boys High that has taken 10 years is bespoke classrooms. It's incredible. If you're ever down at Hastings Boys High, obviously the earthquake, the big tall building has to come down, it's earthquake prone, and the new classrooms, which are different. Very, very bespoke, very, very open plan, and a quite different way of learning and teaching for our rangatahi at Hastings Boys. So we had a beautiful blessing there with Osiris, and it was fabulous. The PanPAC Business Awards, we had the launch, and there are so many of our NGOs, not-for-profits and businesses at Iona College, and it was incredible to see how many of our local businesses from Hastings who are going to enter those awards. And I was joined by Councillor Harvey and Councillor Barrow. The Mates for Life, thank you, Councillor Harvey, for the invitation. An incredible organisation who cares for the well-being of all of our people and moves into areas like ours, and the big opportunity for us to be connected more to the Mates of Life. And I understand our Chief Executive is going to work with the team on that. And I'm really excited to understand fully what, their kaupapa, the amazing work that they do in our community. And I will connect them up to our big firms like Watties so they can get amongst some of our whānau and make sure that their wellbeing is cared for. So it was a wonderful opening of their new facilities in Karami Road. The Shine Connect, which was a speed networking on careers events for seniors at Woodford House. And so that was for our young wahine to understand what it could be to be anything you like in the world. If you wanted to be the mayor, you wanted to be a lawyer, you wanted to be a teacher, whatever. And all of those people were from our community were there to talk to the young women of Woodford House. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. And, you know, everyone wanted to know, how did you get to be the mayor? So it was a very, very interesting conversation. Out of 21 architectural awards, Heretaunga Hastings won 19. Not that I'm skiting, but after a long day in Auckland talking about housing, it was wonderful to attend the Gisborne and Hawke's Bay Architecture Awards. And some of the architectural places that we've got going on in our district are next level. And things that I didn't even know that were happening, like a new Te Reo Māori whare in Taikura school in that kura. Just didn't even know that these things were happening. And here they all were up on the screen winning awards. So I was just so delighted to attend that. And the chief and I, you know, were sitting there going, that's us and that's us. And, you know, Heretaunga Intermediate and just everybody, that Kāweka Hospital, you name it, all that development going on in our beautiful Rohi. The Volunteer Awards, Excellence Awards, thank you to our Youth Council, thank you to Councillor Butto, Councillor Teo Skipworth, Councillor, we had 3, didn't we? Councillor Hannah, of course we did, and we had a wonderful night of celebration. And what a beautiful night to celebrate our incredible volunteers and see the recognition that they truly deserve. Unveiling of the Memorial Friendship Seats for Kay Whelan and Anne-Marie O'Sullivan at the Heretaunga Women's Centre was incredibly moving. And if you haven't had a chance to have a look at them, these friendship seats are all around the world where people can just go and sit, and people will come and sit alongside you and talk to you and hear your story or their story. So this is a worldwide movement of friendship benches, they're called. They're from Zimbabwe, they're across the states, and now we've got them in our beautiful Heretaunga Women's Centre. And we had ministerial meetings with Minister Simeon Brown over our transport and security of funding for the next 5 to 7 years, and also the Honourable Chris Bishop in terms of the opportunities of housing, and as the new government looks at what future housing opportunities could be. We had the first Australasian Air Service Development Roundtable conference held here at Toi Toi last week. And my goodness, first time that it is out of Australia, and how proud we were that we pitched so hard to get that here in Heretaunga Hastings. Everybody who attended from as far as Atlanta, California, had a wonderful time in Hastings. They could not believe our city. They were absolutely blown away. We had dinner at Craigie Range, and fair to say we gave them the best ever welcome, and with Kahurangi, Baden, myself, and one of the directors of the airport. But the airport board and the staff need to be congratulated for pitching so hard to get such an amazing, prestigious event held here. We have certainly put our city well and truly on the map with those guys. Opportunities for our airport and Hawke's Bay, and how we bring more opportunities here through different, either tourism, through freight and logistics, and runways, and all these opportunities. They just gave us these ideas. So it was a wonderful, wonderful conference. We had the vice-regal visit to the region on the 19th of June at Pohiri, and community reception for Cyclone Gabrielle, and it was wonderful to have Her Excellency, the Right Honourable Governor-General, with us, Cindy Kiro, and she was a celebrity, actually, I would be fair to say. The centre out at the Function Centre in Havelock North, where all of our impacted communities and leaders and volunteers, they were so grateful for her. It was like their own personal investiture. She moved around the room. She went to our marae at Waipatu in the morning with all of our marae communities, and in the evening it was for all of our community volunteers. So she thanked each and every one of them and worked the room, and it was amazing for our people who have been working so hard in our community. Our Matariki Governance Group has had a big strategic refresh and look on Friday and identified the major priorities for us as a region. And with all of our mana whenua partners, it was a really good independently run workshop, and more of that work will come through both our Regional Recovery Agency and our Regional Economic Development Agency as we work forward to bring those priorities into some sort of framework and shape, and a refresh of Matariki. The Matariki Living Tohunga Awards with Councillor Jessup, Councillor Teo Skipworth, Councillor Henry Hickey, and we were able to present very proudly to our Omahu Marae and all of their work through the cyclone on Friday night, and how special that was to have Omahu all on the stage. It was very moving because, my goodness, their leadership has been next level, and so for us as a crew to be able to acknowledge them, we felt incredibly proud, didn't we? And on Saturday, I attended the Hawke's Bay Youth Orchestra, and once again, what incredible talent we have in our region. And Councillor Sholem yesterday with Councillor Watkins and I welcomed 96 international students back to our region after many years, probably 4 years since we'd have international students prior to COVID. And it was incredible to see all the schools and all welcoming back. And, you know, that is a massive earner for our region, economic earner. And to see these young students who are here, who are so excited about their learning in our district, in our region, was very excited to welcome them. So it has been a sort of pretty large month. I see that because it wasn't in my diary, Councillor Sholem, but the Pride celebration, I acknowledge you attending that. It's the same night as the volunteers, so we couldn't be in two places at once, but I acknowledge you attending that. And anybody else who's done any other duties as a councillor or representing the Mayor, thank you for those duties that you've performed and attended. Councillor Fowler had an amazing history fundraiser for our new, we say the name yet? It's not official, is it? For our new storage, and our new storage in Queen Street. And so I attended that at our Havelock North Function Centre. And my goodness, an hour and a half later, I was totally enlightened about the village that my parents, my ancestors came from. And I thank you, Councillor Fowler, for sharing your knowledge of our history. It is incredibly powerful to know where your people started and how they came, where they got to, and where we are today. So thank you for sharing that, and thank you for the fundraiser for that beautiful storage in our city. I'm happy to move my report be accepted. I have a seconder, Councillor Kerr. Anyone got any comments or anything that you'd like to add that I've missed? Can we just acknowledge our sister city of Guilin also, who has been through a massive flood event in the last 2 weeks. And we did get a letter from us all over to Guilin, to our sister city, to just send our aroha. And it's lovely that Councillor Watkins has been able to follow up with 2 of our schools, sending messages from our students. And we also think over the last 2 days, and talking to Mayor Little last night, of all of our whānau impacted in Wairoa, and just the heartache, the hardship, the tragedy that they are going through again is just incredibly hard for them. And so our aroha, our love goes to all of our whānau in Wairoa as they face what another rebuild, what another recovery looks like for them. I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Is people ready for a break? Yes. Okay then. I'll adjourn the meeting, time for a cup of tea, and we'll come back to item 8. Okay, thank you. Meeting resumed. Now we'll move to item 8. Adoption of the 2024-2034 Long-Term Plan and Development Contribution Policy. Welcome to you, Lex. Can I just acknowledge the process that we've been through, this, listening to our community, the submissions we have heard, and the hard work that has gone into preparing this year's long-term plan, and trying to manage response and recovery of cyclones and the enormity of some of the challenges with the cost of living crisis that our community is facing. It is a very challenging time for everyone, and particularly for our team to navigate how we manage to recover and how we manage to go about and give the highest levels of service to our community and keep rates affordable. So, any questions, councillors? Any comments? Lex, just one moment. We'll just go to Lex first, and then I'll come to Councillor Sholem, Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Your Worship. Really nothing further from me. I just wanted to point to a small correction on the resolutions, if I can. Just resolution D should say 3 years rather than 4 years. Just got a bit carried away with my years there. But other than that, I'll point you to the resolutions, Your Worship.
Thank you, Lex. Councillor Sholem.
Your Worship, Lex has cut me off at the pass somewhat, so thank you for that. That's great. Given this is largely an administrative matter at this point, I'm very happy to move the recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Sholem. Councillor Kerr. Thank you, Councillor Kerr. Anybody got any comments, any feedback? Any questions? I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that is carried. Thank you, Lex. A big round of applause for your amazing work. He says it's last, but it's not. Thank you, Lex, for your hard work. Thank you to the finance team down there for all your incredibly hard work. I know, Bruce, thank you to your team. Richard, did you want to say something? No. Next item? All right, good. Thank you very much. Item 9, resolution to set the rates, 2024-2025 financial year. Councillor Kerr.
Just a very simple question, Your Worship. Given this is a very technical piece, I just wanted to understand the process that has gone through to make sure this is auditably correct.
Through Your Worship, we'll hand to Richard because he's the one that actually goes through the process.
Lovely, thank you, Richard.
Through Your Worship. Yes, so we sent a copy of our standard rates resolution to Lizzie Wiseling, who's a barrister who is very knowledgeable in the Rating Act legislation. She was formerly of Simpson Grierson and now has moved down into her own. And yeah, so she has reviewed it. She's given us a few pointers where we could change some wording, and we have made those changes. But she gave us the approval that it is lawful.
Thank you, Worship. I'm happy to move that, understanding those legal checks. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. Councillor Sholem. Thank you, Councillor Sholem. Any questions, any comments? Councillor Dixon.
Just a typo, Your Worship, in B. You've got a capital R and a small r. You've got a right. So that's there. And also, a question, what's the process of people asking for a rates remission? I think it's important to be out there knowing the quantum of the rates that people will see. What's the process behind that?
Thank you, Richard.
It depends on what remission they're applying for. So in the actual LTP document that you've just adopted, that's where our rates remissions policies are. And there are various remissions in there. They, depending on what they're applying for a remission for, there's either online forms or they phone up or they can write into us. But depending on the remission they're applying for, it states in the policy what the applicant needs to do to ask for a remission.
So a question, when the rates demand goes out, will that information some of that information be included within it?
On the back of the rates notice,
Yes.
it says about what remissions we offer.
Thank you.
And
That's what
and where to go on the website to
Thank
find
you
it.
for that.
So,
Thank you. I have a mover and a seconder. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That is carried. Well done. Thank you to the team. Item 10 is Local Waters Done Well, which is the terms of reference for consideration. Mr Allen, Mr Thu.
Through you, Worship, I don't think there's a lot further for me to add, but basically to summarise that this paper formalises that full councils continue to work together to work out and provide some consistent and informed data and information to enable your decisions early in next calendar year.
If I could just add through
Yes,
you,
certainly.
Your Worship, this sets up the work for councils to get to an informed position around what this looks like in the context of the new government's Local Waters Done Well. The councils have worked together. Napier City have already resolved and agreed to this. It's been considered by Central Hawke's Bay today as well. It basically uses the money that we had from government, that was the Three Waters transition money, that allows us to get underway with doing that work to be able to inform all the council tables about the options.
Thank you. Mr Bickle. Councillor Nixon.
Thank you, Worship. We seem to have quite a significant organisation across the old ANZ bank site in charge of this operation. What is that costing us?
I think we're here today to discuss the terms of reference. Could we focus our questions to the terms of reference?
Sorry, just to clarify, Councillor Nixon, through you, Your Worship, that you're talking about our existing Three Waters team, because that's what's in there. Yes, it's only it's our staff, it's our council Three Waters team that's in the ANZ, nobody else.
So there's been no increase in staffing to man that. That's good to hear.
Councillor Sholem.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have two questions, if I may. The first question is, I note that in section 8 of the draft terms of reference that the total funding outlined is 1.3 from all the councils, and there's also detailed funding allocations, which is really great information to have. And I also note in 4.4 of the agenda that there's confirmation from DIA that largely this is the type of activity that the funding should be used for. But that said, I just wanted to ask, considering our challenging fiscal times that we find ourselves in, I'm just looking for a little bit more information on how the RRA plans to ensure cost effectiveness and value for money in their activities, just making best use of that funding.
So, well, if I can, just a couple of questions to start, Your Worship, through.
Sorry, if I can interrupt you, Chief, I have actually already submitted these questions to the team. I didn't want to catch anyone off guard.
Thank you. Mr Allen.
Through Your Worship. Yes, so very good question, and there is going to be a lot of rigour around this process. So at the moment we have weekly project meetings with the team at the RRA, which and some others that they've brought in that understand what Three Water reform looked like previously, and to help us navigate through this process. We will be tapping into particularly Napier and Hastings procurement functions to take us through any procurements we may need for support to help build the case for change and understand what the future looks like. Hastings District Council is the entity that will receive the funding that we've talked about that's outlined in the report. It will be our finance team that monitors that spend and will be reporting back to I guess at the moment, the project team, which from Hastings is creating myself, but going forward, we will need to look at what resourcing goes on to that, depending on the workloads.
Thank you.
Thank you. And one final question, Your Worship. So I also note in section 5.1 of the agenda that it identifies that this body of work may potentially provide a bit of distraction to already quite busy staff, high workloads. So I'm just looking for a bit of insurance around the measures that we are going to take to make sure we don't overburden our staff. And again, this is a question I've already submitted as well.
Through you, Your Worship, absolutely really valid point. Councillor, one we're very conscious with. Part of the discussion and the reason and the report and part of the funding need for the Regional Recovery Agency to upscale in some of that resources is so it does not rely fully on resources across our council, but also similarly for Central Hawke's Bay, Wairoa and Napier City, all have large programs of work and varying team sizes. There will be times that we need to draw on people, but a key focus of Mr. Allen and my presence on that committee is that we're really clean and clear around focus use of that time and understanding the work that they're going on to. So, and at the moment, we're trying to keep all of this work away from those teams, so we only involve them at the points that they really have to. And there's also some benefits that this work will do where one of the initiatives is looking at a regional valuation. So we've actually taken that workload off our team at this point in time, not invested in doing our own evaluation at just this time, and we'll do a regional one. So we're trying to see if we can get some unders and overs in this as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Have a direction, councillors? Thank you, Councillor Sholem. Councillor Nixon.
I'm not seconding it.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr.
Yeah, that's fine.
We have a question, Councillor Nixon.
We're not on question. You said any comments?
Comments? Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, I do have some comments. I actually remain unconvinced of the general direction of our three waters. And it really concerns me that we seem to be heading on a path that was determined, 3 or 4 years ago, when the last government came up with its three waters plans that became 5 waters. And the things that worry me is this is a path that doesn't seem to be any endpoint, any extraction point, a point which we can get ourselves out of it.
Councillor Nixon, I'll just get the Chief Executive to explain what the legislative requirements are of us as a TA. Thank you.
Okay, that's fine.
So importantly, yes, the last government proposed significant reforms which have been repealed through legislation. Yep. The government's introduced new legislation around a new model called Local Waters Done Well. It sets a regulatory environment that's going to bound all councils around both drinking water standard regulation and economic regulation. The legislation that's introduced into the House enables councils to voluntarily consider different options for collaborating. What we are simply doing through this work is to get to a point of understanding what that looks like and to be able to provide the councillors around this table and the other council tables in the region with informed information in the context of the new legislation to be able to make an informed choice.
So at the moment you don't have that information. So this is a terms of reference to carry on with this work and look at that investigation and that work, and it's going to be done independently of the councils. That's what's critical. Thank you.
I do understand that, and I did realise that was the case. I still have these underlying concerns of the inevitability of this direction and the potential impact it could have on our communities through increased costs. All I'm doing is saying I've got reservations.
Yeah, and take noted. Councillor Kerr.
So a very simple question of clarification. At the end of this process, with the information that we've received, does that give us the opportunity to either continue as a region or go alone?
Through you, Your Worship, that's exactly the point of this work. The work will not only do a joined up view, but it will also give you an independent view of what is a sustainable funding and delivery model of water services. So we may find some things that in our financial planning that is weak, as may our program, so you'll have a choice to work through.
And I hope, Councillor Nixon, that you are listening to the Minister of Local Government, Minister Simeon Brown, who has talked about this many, many times, this legislation, and about council's obligation to undertake this work. So we actually have to do this work. It's not going to be a choice if we do this work or not. So I've got a mover and a seconder. I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. The next item is the Hawke's Bay Regional Economic Development Agency, and this is a letter of expectations from the governance group of Matariki, and And it's just really for your information. So this is a letter of expectation that has been drawn up by the chairs of Matariki, endorsed by Matariki, and it's for your information. Councillor Harvey.
Yep, thank you. So there isn't any opportunity for us to add any input or thought into this, because I am concerned that council making a significant contribution, which is 1.5 million roughly over 3 years, and has also led the charge on initiating the original review of it and the establishment of this new one, that we remain a little bit too at arm's length, and whether there is a reporting structure that does go through to each council. And I was just talking to my colleague next to me around that being a performance and monitoring committee, whether that's once or twice a year, but I do think we do, because ultimately these agencies don't tend to stick around in there as they are for too long, and that's because we feel actually that we're not as much in the loop as one of those reasons, and therefore they tend to then go under review and change. So I'd just like to understand that and see if we can make any changes.
Thank you. Mr Allen, could you just explain the reporting framework of READER? Thank you.
Through your worship. So whilst the letter of expectation that's come from Matariki to READER sets out a reporting framework, right, it's incumbent on the shareholders, the funders, like Hastings District Council, to actually require READER to report to us in a way and in a manner that's relevant to what our needs are. So certainly we would be expecting that READER would be reporting to council probably twice a year, and certainly through the Performance and Monitoring Committee.
Thank you. Any further questions?
So is that clearly outlined and covered off as such, or is that, it's just...
No, it's not clearly covered off in the letter of expectation, but it's a conversation that I've had with the Chief Executive of READER around our expectations as a shareholder and a funder, different to the letter of expectation that's been issued to READER by Matariki.
So we have an expectation that twice a year Hawke's Bay READER will come into our chamber through performance and monitoring and give us an update. Is that clear? Okay. Just like we do at the airport. Okay, is that everyone quite clear with that? Councillor Fowler?
Yes, through your worship. Sorry.
That's fine.
No, Anna, you go.
Oh, no, thank you, Your Worship. I'm just referring to the appendix where it says the reporting framework and what's to be expected, and it's quite explicit about areas that are not a priority, so I took it from that there is quite a clear reporting framework included.
Thank you. Councillor Fowler?
Thank you, through your worship. Further to Councillor Harvey's, could we have an action, please, that it is formalised that it reports through the performance and monitoring? I suppose 4 times a year is too much? Yep, twice a year then, yep. Thank you.
Thank you. We take that as an action. Now, do I have a mover? Have Councillor Fowler, seconded Councillor Harvey. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Right, it's carried. Thank you. Item 12, the Hawke's Bay Regional Recovery Agency. Te Mata Maui Hawke's Bay Regional Recovery Plan 2. This is the second plan that the RRA have been working on. And so this is for your information only. It's an excellent plan, and we're very grateful for the work that the RRA are working on behalf of our region and uniting us as a region. Councillor Kerr.
Thank you, Worship. I'm happy to move these recommendations and just would like to acknowledge the work that's gone into that plan. It was a really good read, and I thought some of the case studies highlighted really well what we have achieved and are trying to achieve. So if that thanks could be passed on, thank you. Happy to move.
That is an action. Thank you to acknowledge the work that RRA are doing for our recovery. I have a mover, have a seconder, Councillor Lawson. Any further comments? I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. Moving on now to item 13, which is the submission of local government electoral legislation and Māori constituencies amendment bill. Thank you, Louise. Thank you, Councillor Kerr, for putting our submission so articulately forward on our behalf. Any questions on this item, councillors? Any comments? Councillor Sholem, Councillor Kerr.
Would Councillor Kerr like to go first? Okay. Thank you, Worship, and thank you to yourself, Councillor Kerr, and the council for the submission and the information. I wholly support it. I'd like to move the recommendations.
Thank you, Councillor Sholem. A seconder. Thank you, Councillor Teo Skipworth. Any further comments? Councillor Kerr, did you want to add anything?
Just to say how very disappointing it was to receive the recommendation from the Justice Select Committee that regardless of many submissions against the proposed bill, there has been a recommendation to the Crown as a majority to proceed with the amendment. So just disappointing.
Thank you, Councillor Kerr. No further comments? I'll put those recommendations. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That is carried. Thank you for everyone who put our best foot forward. And as we heard today from the Minister, there will be a process in due course that will be required to follow. Item 14, request received under Logoima. Any questions on those Logoimas? Thank you. Councillor Nixon has moved. Councillor Harvey has seconded. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Item 15, proposed amendments to schedules of meeting. Louise, did you have anything to add to your paper? No? Just anybody wish to? Councillor Harvey? Councillor Sholem seconded. Any questions? All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you, that's carried. There are no minor items. And now we move on to public excluded. Looking at the time. Okay. So I'll invite Mr. Cameron or the Chief Executive to take us through this, please.
Reasons for exclusion.
So report is not on today's agenda.
Procedural.
Procedural? Sorry.
Yep. So Craig, will you talk to that,
Can you
please?
take this through? Thanks, Craig.
Yes, Madam Chair. There's an item in the PX agenda. It's a late item that's not on the agenda. Your standing orders advise that you can receive a late item if the council makes the decision to do so. In the public forum, the reason why the item is not on the agenda and the reason why it has to be dealt with urgency has to be explained. So with due regard that the matter is PX, the reason it's not on the agenda is that the information that supports the item only came to hand after the agenda was published. And the reason that it is recommended the matter is dealt with today is that it coincides with another matter on your PX agenda, so it's useful for the council to be able to consider both matters at the same time.
So your recommendation is that the council resolve to deal with an item of business not on the agenda, which cannot be delayed. Happy to move from the chair. Councillor Fowler is seconded. Any further comments about this item? I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That's carried. Moving on to item 18, which is a recommendation to exclude the public for items 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24 and 25. And I'll refer back to you, Mr. Cameron.
Thank you, through Madam Chair. So regards item number 19, it's recommended that matter is held in public exclusion. It's council's making consideration of awards, and part of that consideration process is you're referring to matters of personal information. So it's recommended, it's appropriate at this time, that matters heard in public exclusion. Regards items 20 to 25, all of those matters involve aspects of commercial sensitivity, both of council business information and external people or entities business information. In each of those situations, council is either involved in negotiation or potentially involved in negotiation. So taking all of those matters into account, it's recommended that each of those items are heard in public exclusion.
Thank you, Mr Cameron. Do I have any questions on whether these items should be in public excluded? Thank you. Do I have a mover? Thank you. Councillor Apatu, seconded Councillor Sholem. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Any against? Thank you. That is carried. So that was unanimous. I didn't see some people speak. Show of hands, please. Thank you. Thank you very much. Just keeping you on the straight and narrow. Thank you very much. Okay, so we've moved now to exclude the public from those items now to be heard. Thank you for our community who's joined us today, and a very special day